And what's up YouTube, G3 Iron here with a patron supporter build highlight video. We're going to be going through and showing off a couple of different tips that we've got for one of our G3 patrons on one of his characters that he's using. So thanks so much to Triangulated Lightbulb for your patronage and for your support, and hopefully this video proves useful to you as you continue to craft your character. So Triangulated here is using this character right here, Spin to Lightbulb. Apparently he's got a light bulb theme for most of his characters. I like Propane King, 99 watt light bulb, small light bulb, big old light bulb. Anyway, he's on Spin to Light Bulb right now is what he's on, and his primary damage dealing ability is Cyclone, built into a 5-link, and then he's also using the NgaCyclone's Flame, which gives you level 16 Molten Burst. It acts kind of like a pseudo 7-link because you're using, you're always going to be triggering, or relatively always going to be triggering the 20% chance to trigger level 16 Molten Burst on melee hit. You're always going to be hitting all the time, and Cyclone hits a ton as it scales with attack speed, so you're pretty much always just going to be spinning around shooting out these Molten Bursts. And it's a pseudo 7-link because of the way how the attack gem is built into the item. All 6 of these sockets don't need to be linked. You don't need to 6-link them. You don't need to spend the fusings in order to 6-link the item. It simply supports the triggered attack that's already built in. So a 6-socket NgaCyclone's Flame is just as good as a 6-linked NgaCyclone's Flame because all of the support gems are going to support it, which is great. So this is his build. He's following a build guide. So let's take a look. First off, his patron level is G3 Elite, so he's a $10 supporter. Again, thanks so much, Triangulated Lightbulb, for your support. His build type, we've gone over it. It's a Cyclone Chieftain. He's presently level 80. So this is what his passive tree looks like presently on Spin to Lightbulb. Presently he's got, looks like he came up over to Born to Fight, then he's got Butchery for the increased damage, comes up and grabs a Jewel socket, which this is a good looking jewel right here, increased fire damage, and then increased maximum life, reduction of mana cost. Then he's got some elemental damage up here, comes up for Retribution for even more melee damage, goes all the way up for quick recovery as well as elemental overload. So he's not going to be doing any crit multi damage, but he's going to, so he's sacrificing like the spikes of crit multiplier in order to have more consistent damage across the board by simply having 40% more elemental damage, which is a huge damage spike. Defensively, he's definitely got some room to improve his life down here along this big wheel, the big life wheel node, which is good. And then he goes down towards the Duelist tree to pick up some Fire Pen from Lava Lash, to pick up some great life from Golem's Blood, to pick up Vol Pact, as well as some more Leech from Vitality Void. For defenses, he's all the way over here on Point Blank, which is great. Projectile attack deals up to 50% more damage to targets at the start of their movement, which is fantastic because, again, all of those Molten Bursts that are coming off, that's all projectile damage, which is great. So he also has Iron Grip, which also is going to augment his projectile damage as well as melee attacks. So he's a strength-based character for a lot of his passive points, and it's all going to be applying towards his projectiles, which is all coming off of his NgaCyclone's. So yeah, it's a fun build. It's a great build. So he's also provided for us his build guide that he's following, which was created by Kira1414, and it's been updated for 3.3. So let's take a look. And the very first thing that I'm just going to say overall, whenever you are considering upgrades for your build and you're wondering, hey, why aren't I at a specific spot? So Triangulated Lightbulb has asked me over the last couple of days, hey, can you help me out with attack speed? What's going on with my build? Why aren't I attacking as fast as the guy in the video, as fast as Kira is attacking in his build? And for him, it was a mixture of a couple of different things. So we're going to go over that. But anyway, the basic principle here is you always want to check your build and compare your build against your build guide's build and see exactly where you're at and where the differences are. So that's what we're going to take a look. So here is Kira's build. He shows us exactly what to do with our Ascendancy, which is great. He explains to us that the Chieftain Ascendancy is a free Zoph's Blood. Zoph's Blood, for those of you who aren't familiar, is an upgrade to a Zoph drop unique using a Blessing of Zoph. And right now in the market in Incursion League, we're about 3 or 4 weeks into Incursion League, 3.5 weeks into Incursion League. Zoph's Blood, we've flipped one, I think last week, we flipped it for like 9x, I think is what we flipped it for. So they're not cheap, right? So an Ascendancy that gives you 9x worth of value, pretty good Ascendancy. Okay, so here's a screenshot of him taking down Shaper on the build guide. So again, showing, hey, this is a really good build. This is what it can take out. And we start to look at gear. So our first tip is to check your passive tree. So you want to go down and you want to find the passive tree for your particular build. So right now we know that we're going elemental overload version because that's exactly what Spin to Win's got up here on the top left side of the tree near the Templar, elemental overload. So we know, okay, this is the variant for the build that he's choosing. So let's go ahead and look at level 90 and see what a level 90 tree looks like according to the build. So we see that we've picked up Vol Pact, which is good. We see that we've picked up Point Blank, that's good. We see that we've picked up Iron Grip, that's good for our damage. We also see in terms of our life, hey, we actually don't need to pick up those life nodes. They're there if we want them, but we don't need to pick them up. So we're pretty much following the passive tree to the T, which is good. Like if you start making adjustments to your build and you wonder, hey, what's going on with my build? Why doesn't it match up? Well, it could be that you're messing up with your passive tree, or at least deviating in your passive tree. So for the most part, when we look at Kira's passive tree, the build guide's host, it looks very, very similar to Spin to Win. It looks pretty much the same across the board. So that's good. Now, he's 10 points behind because he's only level 80, but as he continues to levels, Triangulated, if you're watching this, as you continue to level, you're going to scale. Like, these things are good. Now, a couple of things to note right off the bat. The very first thing that I noticed when I looked at your build and compared it in its passive tree was that over here on the left hand side, Slaughter is available, and it gives you increased physical damage with axes, it gives you increased accuracy, it gives you 10% chance to gain Onslaught for 4 seconds on kill. Onslaught is a huge DPS increase as you are increasing your attack speed, your move speed, and your accuracy, as well as your cast speed, which for you, cast speed doesn't matter so much, but your attack speed is going to be a huge buff, and your movement speed is going to be a huge buff as you're running around killing stuff. And 10% chance to gain Onslaught when you're killing roughly, let's say, 250 monsters using NgaCyclone, you're going to have Onslaught when you proc your NgaCyclone. So you're gonna run into a map, you're going to cyclone around a little bit, you're going to save up enough souls to NgaCyclone, you're going to open up a strongbox, or maybe pop a breach, or maybe pop an abyss, and then you're going to pop NgaCyclone, boom, you just turn into a blender, everything's dead, you've got Onslaught for the rest of the map, as long as you've picked up Slaughter, which is great. You also get 25% increased damage with ailments from attack skills while wielding an axe. So for you, that is going to be your ignite damage that's going to increase, which is great. All right, so the other thing to note here is that you're missing out on these 3 minor nodes. So if we look at your passive tree, here's Slaughter right here, which you've got all of the points going towards it. I assume these are going to be your next couple of points as you're leveling up from 80 to 84. But as you pick these up, just check this out. 10% increased physical damage with axes, 3% increased attack speed. Again, 10% physical with axes, 3% attack speed, and then again 10%. So like this is 30% increased physical damage and then 9% increased attack speed with your axe as you're on your way to Slaughter, which is going to give you additional accuracy as well as 25 physical damage. So as well as the chance to gain Onslaught. Like that is going to be a huge DPS buff for you as you do it. And if you even want to mess around with it and you've got regret points and you just want to move stuff around, you can do that as you want to, just to see what that damage boost is going to do for your character. Okay, the second tip is checking your items, the items on your character versus the items on your build guide. So we see here from from Kira's build guide that he's got a couple of uniques that he needs. So he needs a 6-socket Nagahu's Flames, right? Got that. Check mark. 6-socket. We see he needs a Devoto's Devotion. All right. Does he have it? Yep, he does. Does he have any particular Uber enchantments on the Devoto's Devotion? So Kira's got 40% increased Cyclone's damage. That's a ton of damage that's built into your Cyclone. You've got Infernal Blow debuff deals an additional 3% of damage per charge. We don't care about it. At this point, it doesn't matter. You can sit and farm Uber Lab all day. You could use an Uber farming service to try and get that for you, or you could just sit and watch the market and see if somebody puts up a Devoto's with the Cyclone damage on it. But that's going to be a big boost if you're able to gain that 40% damage enchant for your Cyclone. But you've got the unique, which is good. You've also got it qualityed. I've done some of these before where I'm helping people out and they don't have quality on their stuff, so that always drives me nuts. All right, Bronze Lithe. Big deal because it gives you +2 to level of socketed movement gems. That's best in slot. So he's using a 6-link. Kira is. So you could upgrade this to a 6-link whenever you get enough currency. I would say this is way down on the priority list just in terms of damage. Like you're going to get a bunch of damage off of your Cyclone going 6-link, but just for right now, you're level 80. Just keep grinding away. Just keep doing these incremental upgrades as you go. As you level again on the passive tree, you're gonna grow. And I would almost say that it's bigger to go for the Devoto's Devotion. You probably can get that, and it's probably actually cheaper. And you'll make currency as if you're farming the lab you'll make currency if you're just trying to enchant this sucker. Every time you kill Azaro and you drop treasure keys, like you're going to make currency if you try and get this enchanted and make that a higher priority than just getting your 6 link right away. And like as you're making currency to get that enchantment, that currency can go towards purchasing your 6 link. So that's just a little tip there for checking your items and for going for that 6 link and when to go for it. Next off, we see in his glove spot that Kira in the build guide is using a Tomb Fist, which is a really awesome best in slot gloves for this build, because it's going to give you increased attack speed as well as max life. And then you're going to intimidate and maim enemies for 4 seconds on hit with attacks, which of course you're always going to be hitting, whether that's with Cyclone or with your Molten Burst. Either one is going to be hitting and proccing that. Intimidated enemies take 10% increased damage, and since everything is around you is close to you, you're going to be just blowing everything up. Everything around you is essentially cursed and taking 10% more, not more, but 10% increased damage, which is great. Then everything's going to be maimed as well, which is technically an ailment. So as you grab that Slaughter passive and it increases your ailments on stuff, that's great because they're going to be maimed. And that increases that there. On your build, you've got a Corpse Vise, so these are just regular Titan gauntlets. Right now, it's just giving you life, armor, and then resistances. That's okay. It's understandable at this point. You're level 80. You've just started mapping. The grind is like just starting for you in the end game, which is great. Like, it's really, really exciting that you're here. And you can get away with not running a Tomb Fist, but that Tomb Fist is going to be a big boost to you, both in damage as well as life. It's not going to have the resistances on it, so we're going to have to get those resistances elsewhere. All right, let's take a look at his boots. His boots are called the Miracle Tread, and they're giving him life, they're giving him resistances, they're giving him cold resistances, fire resistances, lightning resistances. So it's triple at least tier 3, and then maybe 1 or 2 tier 1s. So your boots look pretty good. You've got movement speed built in there, you've got cold res, lightning res, increased life, and then a bunch of armor, and then stun and block recovery. Those are some good boots, and then you've even got regenerate 1% of life and mana. Yeah, those are good boots, and that's a fun enchant. It's helpful defensively. But overall, there's a pretty steep increase. This is why PoE is such a min-maxing game. There's a pretty steep increase going from these boots going from the Spirit Sparks that you're using to these boots that Kira recommends, just if for no other reason than simply because of the resistances. Like, you find boots, and this is a tip for anybody, right? You find boots and you identify them and it's got triple resistances on it. Check the tiers on that, because if they're good tiers, if they're let's say tier 3 or above, they can go for a pretty penny. We're not talking Exalteds here, but we're talking maybe a couple of dozen Chaos that you can sell those boots for, if not even more, if they're tier 1s or tier 2s. So that's an area where you can upgrade. The boots on here are not unique, and so that's going to be an area where you really need to get your resistances, because you're not going to get them out of a shield, you're not going to get them out of your chest plate, you're not going to get them out of your helm, and you're not going to get them out of your gloves. So it's really important when you're following a build, if they've got uniques on there that are build enabling uniques, that you really hit the resistances on the items that the build recommends. So for our rings, we've got the Victory Spiral, which gives us 7% increased attack speed. That's good. That's what we want. We also want resistances, 15% all resistances. I believe that's tier 1. And then that's a tier 2 fire resistance, I think. And then its base is lightning resistance, which is good. Our second ring is cold and lightning resistances. Gives us some added physical damage to attacks. That's good. Increased attack speed, good. Mana regen is okay. And then 12% to all elemental resistances. Yeah, these look like pretty decent rings, especially when we compare them. Now, compared, here's a corrupted one. He's got tier 1 all resistances, and then he doesn't have resistances on the rest of this particular ring, but he's got life, mana, a bunch of accuracy. I think that's tier 1 accuracy. Less attack speed than your ring, so that's good, but he's got a little bit more physical on it, as well as some flat life. His steel ring has got adds 4 to 12 physical damage, which is flat. Steel rings are by far the best rings in the game, just as a base to add flat physical damage. So that's a big deal. Then he's got increased attack speed. Again, your rings, actually triangulated, are better rings in terms of attack speed. It's just the other rolls that you're looking at. And some of these other rolls are pretty important, like the max life on these 2 rings that he's got between these two. So 70 and 68. So that's 138 life between his 2 rings. Right now, your life has only got crafted. One of your rings has only got 25 to crafted life. So again, as you're looking at the differences between the build and you're wondering, hey, why is he at 5.5k build HP, and why am I only at 4.5? Like, where's that 1000 HP coming in? You can start to see, hey, little amounts of HP here and there on every single piece of rare gear is really going to make a difference. He's also got increased elemental damage with attack skills. That's just a bonus. These rings are not going to be cheap. I'm just going to tell you that right away. If you're looking to upgrade your rings, these rings are not going to be cheap. And the rings that you're using right now are probably not cheap either. You could probably sell those and maybe buy 1 or 1.5 of one of these steel rings. The other thing that you can do is you can simply buy a steel ring base with a high item level and then start crafting on it and hope. Generally speaking, that's more expensive than just buying what it is that you want, but you may get lucky. You never know. It depends on if you're a gambling kind of person and you want to hope that you hit the rolls that you need. All right, looking at amulet, he uses a rare amulet. It's an elder amulet, and it gives him basically some stat stick stats, which are amazing. So gain 13% of physical damage as extra fire damage. So that is kind of double dipping your damage. By double dipping, I just mean double counting. So it's double counting your physical damage that you're already stacking and building and growing from your rings, which are giving you flat physical damage, and then you're getting as extra fire damage, which on your passive tree you're scaling, and through your ascendancy you're scaling that fire damage. So that's a really, really awesome amulet that he's rocking there. Right now you're rocking an Impresence, which is good. It gives us some fire resistance. It also gives us some max life. It gives us some all attributes. It gives us some flat fire damage, which is good. It gives us some regen, and then it gives us Maddening Presence, which is awesome. And that's always fun to play around with. But the reality is here on this amulet that he's got, that Kira's got, it's a bunch of really awesome stats. Like the global crit strike multiplier you're not going to use because you're going elemental overload, so you really don't care about the crit strike multi, but that physical damage as extra fire, that's a lot more damage. Also, the accuracy that he's got on there, so that way he's continually hitting, is great. I would say if you're looking for room to improve your resistances, because maybe you're not going to hit your resistances on your rings if you swap your rings over to life, I would say looking for a rare amulet with some more resistances, as well as maybe some life, and then maybe one of these Shaper or Elder mods where you're gaining extra damage would be great. Again, it's going to be expensive, but it would be worth it, definitely. And it looks like, as well, on the Dire Choker, he's got some added dexterity on there, which you may need in your build because you're running Cyclone. All right, lastly, let's take a look at his belts before we take a look at flasks. So here is Kira's belt. It's the Rift Buckle, Stygian Vise. It gives you flat life, flat fire, flat cold, and then increased elemental damage with attack skills, which is going to help us to our Cyclone as well as to our Molten Burst. And we've got a Stygian Vise, which is great. This looks awesome. So you've got flat cold, flat fire, increased elemental damage, crafted lightning, and then you've got flat armor on there. And then that looks like a great looking abyssal jewel in there. It added flat fire damage to add attacks, added flat fire damage to axe attacks, and then 4% increased movement speed if you've killed recently. That is an awesome jewel. Like, that's the jewel you wanted for this build. Let's just compare. He's got flat life on his, and then flat physical damage to axe attacks, as well as accuracy rating. In general, flat physical damage is worth more than elemental damage, so that's something that you may want to swap out. If you have an extra Abyss Jewel just lying around that's got flat physical damage on it, swap it out, see if it does more damage or not for your build with all the elemental damage that you're dealing. But that jewel really looks really awesome, actually, so you may just want to play around with that and just keep that one on there because that looks awesome. Oh boy, that's great. Okay, so lastly, we're going to look at his flasks really quick. So he's got a Remove Bleeding flask, Kira does, on his build guide. He's got a Taste of Hate, which is, depending on the type of enchantment that you get on the Taste of Hate, it can be anywhere between 50 Chaos to 3 Exalts. He's got a Kira's Determination, which gives you Onslaught, and then Immune to Chill, Freeze, Curses, and Stuns during Flask effect, which is awesome. And then he's got an Edziri's Promise, which is like a 1 to 2C flask at this point, and then Lion's Roar, which is maybe 5C at this point. I don't know, maybe it's 18C. Like, the highest I've ever seen one is like 30C for a perfect Lion's Roar. I could just be wrong on that this league, but this league these are pretty cheap. So when we look at our flasks, there's some room to improve there. You've got to remove curses, which is fine, but again, if we look back at Kira's Determination, if you're able to get one of these, you're going to be immune to Freeze, Chill, and Curses and Stuns during the flask effect. So we're essentially going to combine a couple of flasks here if you improve it. So you've got your Seething Hallowed Flask to remove curses. You've just got a basic Hallowed Flask. You can definitely upgrade that. You've got a Rock Gut, which, yeah, it gives you Frenzy. I mean, it's a cheaper version of Kira, I guess, to give you Frenzy, but yeah, I would just get rid of that. I would almost rather just use a Diamond Flask there. If you're not using one, just to crit more often, so that way you're hitting your elemental overload more often. Ample Basalt Flask of Resistance, so this is good. This gives you a bunch of resistances. I will warn you though, if you really need to use a flask to up your resistances and go over the 75% cap across the board, that's just going to be a problem. So it's great that it's a Basalt Flask and that it reduces your physical damage taken. But the enchantment that's on there, I'd throw in a couple of alterations at it, see if you can get something other than the elemental resistances. Maybe you can get additional move speed rolled on there. And then you've got a mana flask for if you need more mana, because of course Cyclone is a mana hog of a skill. All right, so lastly, our third tip is to check your gem quality and your gem level. So if we're looking here, of course, our main attack here is our Molten Burst, but just quickly looking at our supports, we've got a level 19, we've got a level 21 GMP with 20 quality, that's great. We've got a level 19 Physical Proj, we've got level 19 Fire Pen, level 19 Combustion, level 19 Conk Effect. So again, we want to level all these up, and you see that they don't have, the only one that's got quality is the GMP. So we want to level all these up to level 20 and then trade in the gem with 1 GCP into a vendor, which is going to give us back the same gem but at 20% quality. Just re-level it again. It's going to give you a ton more damage because most of those are going to give you more damage or more area of effect when you trade those in. When we look at things supporting a Cyclone, we've got a great one, a level 21 quality 11 elemental damage with attacks. That's great. We've got Fortify support at level 19. We've got faster attacks at level 19, no quality. We've got Cyclone at level 20 with quality 20. That's great. And then we've got an elemental focus at 19, but with no quality. So again, double check your gems between yours versus your build guide. Your build guide's gem setup is going to show you that, hey, you want to have level 20 gems with, look at the quality on these, like quality 12, like this isn't level 20 even that he's showing here, but or quality 23, this has been double corrupted Conk Effect. Here's a level 19 with a 20 quality. He hasn't upgraded his GMP yet, but here's a Fire Pen, quality 20, elemental focus, max level, with again quality 20. So you're actually going to want to check that out, because for a lot of skills you'll actually get an additional line of text on the skill gem when you quality them. So whether that's increased area of effect that it has, whether it penetrates a certain type of damage, whether it just gives you more damage, like you're going to want to check all of that. So just always go back in and check your gems. His quality on his Cyclone could be improved on the build guide, but here his elemental damage is level 20 with 20% quality. Fortify is not 20 yet, but again, elemental focus, like all of these are areas where as you are min-maxing, like we are just min-maxing here, we're not saying, oh, well, maybe here's the biggest thing you can do. No, we're saying, okay, what's really going to put your build over the top? What's the last couple of things that you can do to really min-max your build? It's looking at your gem quality versus your build guide. Then our bonus tip is to check your jewels. So a lot of build guides will have jewels in their slots. So here's his recommended gear. Some folks will put them here, some folks will put them here. A lot of folks will just throw in, hey, where should I throw in jewels? So he's got it down here for both jewels, for abyssal jewels as well as flat jewels, and Kira's written it really nicely, just what it is that you're looking for. So you want to pick, he says, recommended 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes, and then on your flat jewels, you just want to be looking for increased attack speed, physical damage, fire damage, area damage, which if we look at your build, what you've got here, you've got a lot of these already slotted in. I wanted to say that. You've done a great job with your jewels. So you've already got your Red Dream, which is nice, gain 5% of fire damage as extra chaos damage. That's great. Then you've got over here, you've got your Entropy, which we've already looked at, but increased fire damage and increased life, which is really good. Over here, you've got your Phoenix Flame, increased physical damage with axes, as well as increased burning damage and projectile damage, which again is going to help you for your Molten Bursts. Like those are some good looking jewels right there. You've still got some room. And again, this is going to be a personal decision. If you want to, as you're going like from level, let's say 85 to 90, and it could be that our build guide Kira actually does this, that you can grab for a couple of passive points, a couple extra jewel sockets. Like here's a jewel socket for 2 points. Here's going to be a jewel socket. Whoops. There we go. Here's going to be a jewel socket for 3 points where you're getting increased melee physical damage for 3 points. So if you spend 5 points over 5 levels, like that's 2 extra jewel slots that you can throw in there. If you want, you can increase your evasion rating. If your evasion rating is what you're primarily relying on for defenses, which I don't think it is for you. But anyway, if you want to, that's another 3 for another jewel socket, which wouldn't be optimal. Like I would say do the other 2 first, and then if you really just want to go nuts with jewels, then go over there. Even over here, like you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so you go 4 points and you get another jewel socket. So if you just want to go nuts with your abyss jewels and stack a bunch of max life or stack a bunch of flat physical or flat fire damage, you've got room to do it there. So check your jewels. versus your build guide, because you're going to find a lot of places where you can min-max your character from there. All right, so hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Thanks so much again to Triangulated Lightbulb for your support and for your patronage. Thanks to all of our G3 patrons, to Triangulated Lightbulb, to Vincent, and to Marshall, that are all helping support the channel, so thanks so much. If you've got questions or you've got ideas or comments for your build, feel free to head on over to Patreon, sign up for one of our various tiers of bonuses and rewards, and get awesome stuff. Join our Discord server, get all sorts of exclusive perks, even like this video. So if you've got build guides that you'd like to have checked, or you'd like build advice on something, go ahead and let us know, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with an awesome video that'll hopefully help you min-max your character to the best and see yourself blowing the hell out of everything in Rayclass. Have a great day. Thanks for everybody's support.